That was quite the intro. Unfortunately, I'm not here to dance today. I'm here to talk to you about design systems, what they are, how you get them, why you get them, and when you need them. So, yeah, if we don't know each other already, which I know most of us do know each other, my name is Scott Soltys-Curry. By day, I am a competency manager for UX and UI design and front-end development at Fusion Alliance, which is a technology company in Carmel. And then, yeah, like she was saying, which was very nice of her, I also run the Indianapolis Coffee Guide, which is a popular Instagram, iPhone app, which I will let you download at this moment, and a website that's a curated guide to local coffee in Indianapolis. So that's me, and that's why I'm here talking to you today. So like I said, we're going to talk about some design systems, specifically what they are, how they get made, why they get made, and when you should be using them, and a couple different use cases along the way. So we're going to start by taking a little journey. So I know most of you are designers, but some of you aren't. But how many of you have something that looks like this on your computer? Yeah? Yeah, and if you're like me, then you probably have a couple. I know I am guilty. I am very guilty of that. I probably have some on my computer, on this computer, that some people in this room helped make, actually. So I say this because if you're still relying on one of these brand guidelines PDFs, this conversation is for you. And design systems are for you because they're kind of the natural evolution from brand guidelines. All right, so first question, what is a design system? So I stole this definition. There are a million out there, but I stole this one specifically from InVision because I'm sure most of you know InVision or use InVision or have at least heard of them. And over the last couple of years, they've kind of become a global leader in design tools and design systems. They have bountiful resources around design systems. So they define a design system as a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards that can be assembled together to build any number of applications. So I know that's a little wordy. So the pieces of it that we're going to look at is that it's a collection of reusable components that are guided by clear standards that can be assembled together to build any number of applications. So what kind of things go into a design system, these reusable components? So depending on what kind of project you're working on whether it's analog or digital, it can contain any number of things. But these are generally the things that you'll find in a design system. So much like brand guidelines PDF, you're going to have a logo marks, etc. You'll have some icons and illustrations. You'll have fonts, you'll have colors, photography or photography guidelines. You might have some messaging standards around your brand's voice or your product's voice. You might have some web elements, some animations or motion guidelines, and pattern libraries. And for the love of God, if you do have a design system or you're making one, please include a change log, which is just very important, which you might not realize now, but is very important to have a change log. So kind of going back to the design system, or the definition, this is the collection of reusable components. And the next piece of that is having clear standards on how to use them. It's more than just, hey, here's our logo. It's everything else that comes in like a brand guidelines PDF, like your margins and padding, and if you're using this color logo, and then it should only be on such and such backgrounds, or if you're using this color, it should be this, or here it should be just the logo mark. So there should be clear standards that are clear enough so that anyone could go into this design system at any point in time and use any aspect of it. So clear standards are a very important part of it. And the last piece, you can use design systems for any number of applications. And like I said, it can be analog applications. It could be things like marketing materials or print collateral or swag. And for digital products, it could be things like you can use design systems to create ads, websites, applications, mobile apps, landing pages, you name it. It can be created for any number of things. And unlike flat design or brand guideline PDFs, design systems are also built to be living, breathing collections of these things, which again is why you should have a change log, because things will get updated and people need to know when things get updated. But also because they're living, breathing things, generally they live online versus on your desktop somewhere. And even that can look different depending on your product or your project, or your business needs. So a couple different places that people house design systems. A lot of people host them themselves on maybe like a separate domain. I know, for example, we have a lot of Salesforce people here. Their Lightning design system is really popular, and it's on its own domain, which I don't know off the top of my head. Atlassian has an incredible design system. Theirs is on a separate domain. It's atlassian.design, which I highly recommend checking out. There are also tools like InVision, like I was saying, that you can use for a small fee. And of course, there are DAMs, or digital asset management tools, that you can use. Some of the more basic examples are like Dropbox, Google Drive, or Box. And in some extreme circumstances or cases, some companies actually pay to have their own digital asset management tools created for them. At Fusion, one of our clients, I got to work with, not in building it, but I had to use their design system and their digital asset management tool. And at one point, we discovered through conversation that they spent upwards of $300,000 on getting their design system made and like this digital asset management tool built. So they can either be, like I said, on the cheaper end of the spectrum, where you can host them yourselves on your own domain. You can do something that's relatively inexpensive like Dropbox or Google Drive, or you can spend upwards of $300,000 on your own asset management tool. So I'll let you decide on which one works best for you. All right, so next, how do design systems get made? And the how, like most digital products and processes, it is a lot easier on paper than it is in real life, and that's okay. So for starters, the people who should be involved in creating these design systems, first and foremost, like any project, you need to have stakeholders, or your decision makers. These people are generally in business units or C-suite or whomever. We also need to probably have a marketing team involved, because they're going to be using it a lot. Obviously, a design team is a design system, and designers are generally the ones designing design systems. FYI. You should probably also have some developers, whether that's the people who are going to be developing it for you if it's online somewhere, or the people who are going to be using it eventually. And really just anyone who's going to be using the design system should be involved throughout the process. And then obviously your users. You should always have users involved. So the process is that you obviously want to start by defining what your design system needs and what things should be in it. So if you're working on an analog product or project, it's going to be a lot different than if you were building a design system for a web application or a mobile app. So first you need to define what exactly your design system needs. And then second, gather what you already have. So unless you're working on a brand new product for a brand new brand, chances are you have some assets that live somewhere on somebody's computer in a brand guidelines PDF. So then you take those two and you compare them, and you realize the gaps of what you need to develop, what you need to have designed. Then you need to prioritize the gaps, and then you need to get to work actually building the design system. And again, these are living and breathing things, and they will always be evolving, so it's just important to get started on it. I also, when building design systems, always like to suggest starting with the big picture items before getting down into like the nitty gritty. So if you're working on a brand, obviously first, before anything else, you want to have, your logo, your brand, like visual brand identity nailed down, your colors and fonts before you start getting down to like the nitty gritty things like forms and web elements and little things like that. So I also, another caveat to this process is that I realize it's not built for everyone, especially with design projects and working on like any digital product. I know more often than not we're building the planes while we're flying them. So this is just a general guideline of how it should be done. I know a lot of the times when I'm building a design system, even when a design system is not part of the scope of the work, I know how handy they are. So what I will do is if if the design system is not this specific deliverable, is that I'm, designing things, or as I'm developing things out, I will throw them onto one place. And then, towards the end of the project, be like, look, I compiled all of these things for you. Use them, create them. This is your design system. So that's just one way that it can be extremely helpful. All right, so now the next question is probably the easiest, at least for people in this audience to understand. But why have a design system? So like I said, the easiest one and the number one reason to develop a design system is brand consistency, which is, I think it's still a buzzword, but it's still brand consistency is extremely important. Another big piece is that anyone can use a design system. Like I was saying, having those clear standards and having everything in one place means that anybody can go in at any point in time, grab what they need, know how to use it properly, and where to use it properly, and they should be good to go. And because it's digital and it lives online, design systems also easily scale, so they can adapt and contain as much as they need. You can scale it back depending on what it is. And obviously, having a design system online saves you time and it saves you money, if nothing else, if you're trying to convince somebody that you need a design system, or your product or your project needs a design system, the two biggest ones, the only ones you need to know, is that it saves you time and it saves you money in the long run. Because in our space specifically, we all know that time and money, it's rare that we have an excess of either, let alone having an excess of both. So thankfully, design systems kind of save us both of those. And as our good friend April Liberto Ludgate likes to remind us, time is money, money is power, power is pizza, and pizza is knowledge. Which you can also take to your stakeholders, that little nugget. But kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, that the client that we worked with that had the $300,000 design system, like I said, our project was not to work on that. Our project was actually an ROI project where we determined the ROI of that system and a couple other systems that they have internally. And we discovered through our research, through a lot of research, that though they spent $300,000 on this product, it's saving them over $10 million a year, which is insane. I mean, granted, they're also a global company, but it just goes to show that the more you scale it and the more you use it, the more time and money that it can save. So I would take those odds. Also, kind of going back to the brand consistency, a lot of the times marketing teams are the ones driving design systems, or at least they should be, driving the content and what goes in them. So one thing that using a design system can guarantee is that everyone will be telling the same story with your brand. All right, so the final question is a two-parter. It is when. When should you make your design system, and when will you use your design system? So the first one is that when should you make your design system? Yesterday. You should have had your design system built already. Because they're that important. They are the new brand guidelines.pdf v2 version 6 updated. And then when will you use your design system? I can say from experience, personal experience, and from speaking with a million people about design systems, that you will literally use your design system every single day for one thing or another. It will be used every single day. So, in conclusion, we've talked about what design systems are. They're the collection of reusable assets that are guided by clear standards that can be used to build any sort of application, whether it's digital or analog. And if you have this file on your computer, or any of these files on your computer like I do, we need to talk. All right, that is design systems. That is what, how, why, and when. I appreciate you having this conversation with me. And yeah, like I said, I work for Fusion Alliance, and we are hiring, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but we are hiring. And also, I do run the Indianapolis Coffee Guide, so if you like coffee, I will literally have coffee with every single person in this room, separately or together. If you want to get coffee, I love local coffee so much that I literally built an app about it. So yeah, so that's all I have. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here.